Did y'all see what I just did with Dean Rutherford? Y'all, I'm working on my Arkansas accent here. Thank you, Dean Rutherford, for that wonderful introduction. And I thank you all for coming, and I also would like to personally welcome you in your respective capacities. The words I'm about to share with you right now are words that is a story, are words that are going to convey to you a story that any struggling poor parent out there in the third world, or even here in the US, is going through, or a story of any other poor struggling child would be going through. Last night, I attended a National Issues Forum on healthcare at the Clinton Library. And one of the approaches we were discussing were providing healthcare was what if healthcare was provided to everyone in the US, to every American citizen as a right? And I thought to myself, wouldn't we all like to say that children everywhere deserve the right to live, deserve the right to have all the love and care from their parents? Don't children deserve the right to receive an education? And don't those parents deserve the opportunity and the right to provide all the love to their children? And it reminded me so much of my story. Well, let me first orient all of us here about where I come from. I do not want to make any assumptions, and I do not want to tell you a story about one doctor I visited one day, and I was very surprised when I mentioned to him I come from Uganda. I was very surprised to where he thought Uganda was. So for those of us out there who are not really geographically oriented, I know I'm not when it comes to the US. If you tell me you're from Utah, I'm like, where is Utah, USA? So Uganda is surrounded by all these countries I'm going to mention. To the north, we are bordered by Sudan. To the east, we are bordered by Kenya. To the south, by Tanzania and Rwanda. And to the west, we are bordered by the Democratic Republic of Congo. I would like for you to notice all those countries I have mentioned and imagine all the conflict that has been going on. We know what happened recently in Kenya. We know what has been going on in Congo after the effects of the long regime of President Mobutu Sese Seko. We know of the genocide in Rwanda. We know of Darfur in Sudan. And it's so unfortunate that when I mention Uganda, the first thing someone will know, someone who has watched The Last King of Scotland, will remember Idi Amin. It's very unfortunate. And so I grew up, I was telling a friend of mine that I have stepped back from telling people that that I come from a poor village. I have stepped back from using the word poor first because I come from a very beautiful village. I do not want to focus so much on the poverty because for those of you who have traveled to these poor villages, you will know what I'm talking about. When you get there, the vibrant nature of the people there, the kind of welcome they will give you, how happy they are, how they go, the wealth, the richness of their culture, and how they will welcome you, you will know exactly what I'm talking about. Irrespective of the poverty, it is a beautiful place, physically and just the people there. So I come from a very beautiful, beautiful village sitting in Western Uganda at the border of the Democratic Republic of Congo and Uganda. And the time I was growing up, there was so much conflict going on between Congo and Uganda. For some reason, the rebels found it suitable to carry out their activity in the mountains in my village. And trust me, I have grown up through nights when at around 3 a.m., all of a sudden shooting started from everywhere. And my grandmother tells me, put on as many layers of clothes as you can so that we can run outside and hide and sleep in a garden or sleep by the banks of a river, because we do not know when we shall return or if we shall return to this house anyway. That kind of life. I grew up in a very poor situation with a large family of 8 siblings, and my parents did not have enough money to even afford necessities. And when I say necessities, I'm not talking about cable. I'm not talking about a radio. I'm not talking about a microwave in your house. I'm talking about necessities of salt to add to your food, because we eat all our food with salt. I'm talking about necessities like being able to afford to buy a matchbox so that you can light your candles at night. Necessities like a warm blanket when it's raining. Necessities like that. We were so poor. I'm not talking about the poverty of not having a carpet in your house. To the extent that thinking of going to school, thinking of paying for $20 to go to school was a luxury. I grew up in that kind of situation where children do a lot of work. A lot of work. At 9 years old, if your mother left you at home, she would not have to worry about guests coming at home, because she knows you can walk to a garden that is a mile away from your house, cut a banana bunch, carry it back home, peel it, and be able to prepare food for your parents. The kind of work that you walk down to a stream, a muddy stream, to fetch water in a 20-liter jerrycan and be able to carry it uphill back home. The kind of poverty whereby you are a child and you're very excited about holidays. Christmas is coming, but you know that your parents will not be able to buy you a new dress or a new pair of shoes so you can go to church in your new beautiful dress. Today, I could not show you the clip of that video from Heifer International. You could have seen me, and maybe you may not have believed that it's me. It is this one red piece of clothing that I grew up wearing since I was about 4 years old until I was 9 years old. Not because I really loved it so much, but because my parents could not afford to buy me a new one. And so what I did, I kept tearing it as I grew bigger so that it could grow with me. It is the reality. The kind of poverty whereby you do not know, you have breakfast, but you do not know whether you will have lunch or you will have dinner. And that should not be really the problem. I do not want to whine about the work we do. It is our culture, and that is the way most of the children we raise do. When you do not have the conveniences, the modern conveniences of electricity to do everything, you definitely have to find an alternative way to do things. That is not what I'm complaining about. The pain I am talking about is the pain of knowing that I am a child who has dreams, but no one ever walked to me to ask me, what would you like to be in the future? I did not have that chance to be excited and tell someone. But I knew deep down in my heart that one day I did want to become a nurse. I did want to become a pilot when I saw helicopters flying by. I had big dreams. I thought nurses looked beautiful in their white uniforms. I thought doctors were magical when they wore those things in the ears. I really wanted to be able to speak that language that children who walked by my home every day were speaking. They were speaking in a foreign language that I did not know. And I thought, oh, how cool. I really would like to be able to learn how to speak that language. But I was running out of time. I was 9 years old, and my parents would not listen to even a single plea of me wanting to be able to go to school. They might have listened if they had a source of income to be able to pay for school. In Uganda, if you want to send your children to school, you have to be able to pay for their school tuition and buy them uniforms and books. And I'm really talking about an amount that is about $20 to cover the cost of everything. I'm talking school tuition plus uniforms and books. But they still could not afford that. Given that, on a good day, if they took produce to the market and were able to sell it, the maximum they would get out of it would be $2. Imagine how much it would have taken them to save me money to go to school. But one day, this wonderful project came into my village. And I'd like to take this opportunity to tell you, for those of you who have not been able to hear about Heifer International, consider yourself lucky today to hear about it. Heifer is an over 60-year non-governmental organization that has helped to alleviate hunger and poverty in the most amazing way out there in the developing world, and even here in the US. And they do that by giving all sorts of livestock to farmers. They train them, give them the livestock, and this really started with a simple idea of a farmer who thought that people should be given a sustainable source of food and income other than immediate relief. And that is exactly how the Heifer model works. They train you and give you the livestock, whether it's a cow or a goat. In my case, it was a milking goat. And we got immediate relief, which was milk that we drank every day. You know, we take it for granted here because we are so lucky to have, at least when my milk is done in my fridge, I know I can run to Walmart and get another gallon of it. Those are the things we really take for granted here, but it's so unfortunate that even such an essential dairy product lacks in the daily nutrition of children who need it most to grow. And even when you think about the amount of milk the goat produces, it's really little, but adding it to a cup of porridge every day, a saucepan of porridge that is going to be shared by 8 children on a daily basis makes a whole lot of a difference. And so by selling the goat's milk and selling some of the kids, I was able to save enough money within 3 months of receiving that goat from Heifer, and I was able to pay for my school tuition. But here's the funny thing with a Heifer gift. I was very skeptical the very first time they brought in these goats. You know, in my culture, we do not have the culture of petting animals. So when they tell me we are going to receive the gift of a goat from Heifer, I tell my mother, what kind of a gift is a goat? Sincerely. Who needs a goat at this time? I really thought that my mother was going to tell me, someone is going to come and give you a gift of school tuition, and someone is going to buy you a uniform. Someone is going to buy you books, and you're going to be able to go to school. And she comes and tells me it's a gift of a goat. Like as if that is not enough. She says, this goat is an exotic kind. It needs to be kept in its pen. We need to bring its water and food to it. Oh, wow. But as soon as she says, it's a wonderful gift because we shall sell its milk and we shall be able to get money and you will be able to go to school. At the mention of school, I told her I'm in. And it really did not take long to save the money. from selling this goat's milk. And I do not remember being any more happier than the first day I proudly wore my yellow shirt and blue skirt and walked to school for the first time. I was 9 years old, but I did not care sitting in a class of 4-year-olds who were in their first grade as long as I went to school and was able to learn that language that they spoke. It was English. I never spoke in English when I was 9 years old, but in our school system, they teach us in English because Uganda was a British protectorate. So I went to school, and there I was, and I progressed so well, and I even managed to make the best grades at the last class of primary school, and I thought I was done. I did really well, but secondary school education was very, very expensive. But I had made lots of friends in the US who helped me make applications to schools here in the US, and that is how I managed to come to the US for the very first time in 2003, and I did a postgraduate here at Northfield Mount Hermon in Northfield, Massachusetts, before I joined Connecticut College, also on full tuition, full scholarship. It's a private school, very expensive, $42,000 per year. Where in my wildest dreams would my parents have been able to make all that money to send me to school? And so I ended up in Connecticut, very beautiful place, which I absolutely miss. Love the Northeast, hate the snow. How do you live in this kind of environment? That is all I thought to myself the first time I came to the US. I was excited about the pizza, the McDonald's, and everything, but the weather, I'm glad finally warm weather here in Arkansas. And I was thinking to myself, isn't it really interesting that the very organization that gave me the opportunity to come to go to school is right around the corner, Heifer International, and I finally end up at the Clinton School, which is same location. I first heard about the Clinton School at a meeting where I met Dean Rutherford and where I met Mrs. Beebe. I was speaking to a group of people about what the kind of education I have gotten, how important it has been to me. And Michaela, I think you are in the audience. You would not know this, but you are the person who asked me that question at the end, Beatrice, what would you like to do for your future? And I answered to you that I would like to continue my education, but I am lame financially. I can never be able to afford graduate school. And someone mentioned to me that Dean Rutherford is in the audience, and he's the dean of the Clinton School. And immediately I went and spoke to him and explained to him my tremendous interest in the Clinton School just after hearing it. And Dean Rutherford told me, Beatrice, have you ever heard of the word instant admission? That is the best phrase so far I have heard in my life. Thank you, Dean Rutherford. And so I continued to apply to the Clinton School, and here I am today. And when I think back, I imagine so many things that could have gone wrong that I would not have made it this far. We all know about the corruption, the levels of corruption that happen in our country. In our countries. We receive financial aid, but because of all the bureaucracy and all the institutions that the aid has to go through before it gets to the actual project is a lot. This goat could have died. The Clinton School could have refused to give me a scholarship. Connecticut College could have refused to give me a scholarship based on so many reasons. And thinking back of the situation of people in my village, anything could have happened. I could have suffered from a disease and would not have been able to pay for my medication. I could have been another teen mother. I cannot tell you how many girls struggle to go to school, and they reach somewhere in their school they cannot afford to pay to push it further, and they drop out of school just because they cannot afford it. But when they drop out, the next thing they're forced to do is to get married at a really young age, 16-year-olds. My age mates, I have seen them at home, not by choice, but right now they have about 3 children or 4 children. It's not bad to have children, but they are very bright minds. They are very bright people that we have lost, whose resources we could have utilized in another way, but they could not afford to continue their education. And so I am really privileged. I have been in the Clinton School for only a month, but I cannot tell you the level of excitement I have to be in this class. We have such a diverse group of students, class of 2010, you know what I'm talking about. Very rich discussions, and some of these classes, have you ever taken classes whereby they give you handouts and you just read them and the next thing you just want to do is put them in a bin? I feel really different for this class. Some of these classes, decision analysis, Professor Al Bavan's class, some of those manuals that we read about how to make decisions, how do you assess needs of a community, how do you establish a project. I feel like just stacking them somewhere and keeping them because I feel like this is what I exactly need to go, and I don't know whether in real life you need to use manuals to go, but that is how I feel. I feel like keeping these handouts because they are so interesting. I cannot tell you the level of excitement I have. And our professors are really, really good professors, in all honesty. I am really privileged to be in this class and to be here, and I thank the Clinton School for giving me these wings, for giving me the opportunity to spread my wings and fly as high as I can. And wherever I will land, I know that I'm going to be able to go back home and make a positive change there. I have been telling people that I was able to go back home last summer, and just because I graduated from Connecticut College, they threw a huge party for me. It was like a wedding. I was in tears the whole celebration, seeing how the whole village took this. I really just thought that, it is 4 years at Connecticut College. And finally, I walked out with a paper. So I just saw how much it meant to them, and it even adds more. And seeing how much they expect from me, it adds more on my shoulders, the responsibility that I have to go out there. But I know that when I get out of the Clinton School, with all the skills I'm going to receive, I am going to walk proudly, knowing that I am qualified to go and do as much as I can. The very situation of my people in the village, the very potential that they have, but the limited resources they have is all that gives me inspiration to go on. And so to my fellow Clinton School students out there, and to all of us who support this great cause, we are very privileged to be in this school. Personally, I do not take this education for granted. And so let's remember that this world continues to be fair to only the elite. We are lucky to be elite, to be categorized in that group of the elite. We are receiving the skills, we have all the tools, and we are going to be able to go out there and change the world. And if we do not use this opportunity to go out there and effect social change, we shall be putting our skills and our opportunities to shame. And so I would like to thank you all for supporting this great cause of raising money to send children like me to being able to give me the opportunity to explore my dreams. Thank you all for coming.